Notification gang. Heyo. What is up, Lacoste? What is up, everyone else that's tuning in, watching this live or watching this in the Vons? Hopefully, you are doing well and you've had a good week. Let me double check that the cables aren't contacting each other, causing any weird feedback. Okay, that seems to be good. Yeah, how you doing? I've had a pretty good week. Hopefully you've had a good week. And we are doing the water cooler stream today, brought to you by Zeal. That's kind enough to allow me to stream during work hours, where we get to sit back, relax, chat, talk about tech, talk about life, and do a little coding. Today we'll be doing more Elixir stuff, working on the Notion helpers / working on the Notion package itself, because we are dog fooding the package we used ourselves so that we could improve on it and also use it. So we find the bugs, we can fix them, and then we can use it again and improve on it and iterate. So nothing better than dog fooding your own product to get the most out of it. So yeah, that is that. What's going on? So let's go ahead and try to get things going here. But you've had a good week, Lacoste, I'd imagine. And thanks for stopping by and getting that notification. And moseying on over. Let's see, so I'm just setting up here. I need to open up the other project. Notion helpers, dev container. And we do have to turn on string closed caption. Thank you very much, string closed caption, for reminding me to turn it on. Okay-ish? You got any good, any bad, anything you want to talk about? Any good wins of the week? All that type of good stuff? Is it because the dogs eat their own shit? No. Let's see. Like, I've had everyone has their own interpretation, but let me actually go and look up dog fooding. Let me try to look up this idiom and see what it is. Okay, so let's go ahead and share what. So eating your own dog food or dog fooding is a very common very common SaaS company. It's a practice of where companies test the product. They're just testing the product in real life. When these products are tested, you get to know them in detail. The whole point is letting employees use the software. I will give you a detailed preview, blah, blah, blah. All right, when the solution. Origin of the term. Okay, here we go. So 1998, Microsoft had Slime Manager, email foundry titled Eating Your Own Dog Food. The email asked managers to use the product internally and increase the use. This led to the term becoming popular and testing. Stages of dog fooding examples. Why is dog fooding important? Bottom line. So this doesn't get into it, but I believe the term is because let's say you're manufacturing. Let's do bike shedding next. So let's do you're manufacturing food, in this case dog food, but you release the product, you release your dog food, and you're wondering why your users, or AKA the animals, the dogs that are your clientele, are not eating the food. Of course, you didn't eat the food because it is dog food. It is not for you. It is something you are making. It's not something that you eat because you are not a dog. So in order for you to determine, and then you come to discover that when you eat said dog food, it tastes rancid. And then you're like, well, of course, dogs aren't going to eat this because a human wouldn't even, and no one else would actually ever eat this. So, that's my interpretation of the term dog fooding. It's like, because you are making the product, you are not the consumer of the product. Just like dog food, you are the creator of the dog food, you're not the consumer of the dog food. But you should go and try to consume your own product in order to determine if it actually tastes good to the end user. So that's my interpretation. I'm pretty sure that I am loosely confident that that is actually the reason why we're saying dog. They say dog fooding. So that's that I believe that's the origin why we use the term dog fooding. I am more confused now. Yeah, it's just a term to actually try to consume something you're building that you wouldn't be the one to be the consumer of. It's just that it's taken an extreme degree by using a dog food as the example of the product of production and consumption. I saw the term in a more positive light. um, a more recent and famous, a more recent and notorious example of trying to consume going and consuming the product that you're making in order to make it better is actually what um, I believe it's Uber is requiring to. I think it's Uber requiring their employees to do, and it's to go and actually, you know, out there. Was it Uber or was it no, it wasn't Uber. It was either Uber Eats or it was like Grubhub or something like that. One of the food delivery apps is the ones that DoorDash, I think it was DoorDash. But anyway, they want the employees to actually go and do a delivery or two every I forget how often, but basically they want the developers and everyone that works in the company to go and use the product even though, they don't, because then they can better understand the product and also find pain points in the product themselves and be more motivated to improve on the product than just like coding up and building UIs and stuff like that with assumptions when they're building a product when they're not even the end user of the product. It's like, how can you know to make a better product if you are not actively either asking questions to the people that are using the product or aren't actually a person that actually uses the product themselves. So it all comes down to, in order to make a better, more reliable, easier to use product, you need to understand the user of your product. That's the end goal. Alrighty. Let's see. Let's get some background music going too, because it's way too quiet. My soundtrack by Twitch was bugged, apparently. Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and try. So we're working on the Elixir helpers. We started a new project called Notion Helpers. It's an integration. Wanted to build out an application that's an integration with Notion to go and do cool stuff with it. Let's see. We do have a project board for said Notion helpers. And we finished that. And then we were going to start working on implementing reoccurring tasks epic. So need to allow a user to connect Notion OAuth app. I was thinking about this, and I should probably configure the Notion app that we're building to actually have OAuth integration and get that done. And let's figure out how that will go about. For my configuration files, I am usually either using JSON or YAML. Most of, I think, Rails heavily uses YAML files for some of its configurations. And then I've done a couple node projects, and that's JSON. I haven't used Toml yet, but I'll put a big old asterisk with that I haven't done a lot of, at least like DevOpsy type of work where configuration files are king of the mountain. You tried Toml, but it got really verbose. And then you did say that, looking back at your comments before, that I'm frustrated right now because my hosted backend Supabase keeps timing out and I can't do anything. Interesting. One of my coworkers actually recently introduced us to Supabase for a database solution. That sucks that it keeps on timing out though. It actually really sucks. It's went back to JSON. It's less readable, but I'm used to reading it. Yeah. Their support replied instantly to their credit. Interesting. Are you on the free tier or are you on a paid tier? Because I think Supabase has like a pretty generous free tier, right? Or moderately generous free tier. So let's go ahead and actually try to dive into configuring let's actually make a to-do for this part of the epic and see where we land with this. So I'm going to go to my integrations. And I'm going to swap my integrations so that it actually requires a public integration. So let me go ahead and hide my screen real quick while I work on this part. It's part of the configuration at least. You're probably eligible for 1 year free pro tier since you signed up early. Supabase seems like a really cool product though. Public integration. All right, so nothing seems to be out of the question here or crazy private stuff going on here. So in Notion OAuth flow, users can be directed to its path after JPI. The path will be appended to the picture. You can't contain URL fragments, relative paths, or wildcards. So we're going to go ahead and just redirect. We're doing localhost development, so that's all we have for now. My own name, used to link to your integration website or homepage in your integration page. I think it'll be great hosted DB in a few months, but right now it's still not 100% polished. Oh. Depends on how much you like Postgres. I like Postgres. So. That's why it's even more appealing. So Notion easy set up to make using Notion easier. Support email is my email. Still in development. All right, I'm going to try submitting this. So let me hide my screen. Writing Postgres functions is a pain, but they're useful AF. I haven't actually had the pleasure of writing Postgres functions. Okay, cool. So when you click on the submit button, it says you'll get an OAuth secret and you will need to implement OAuth authorization. See developer docs for more information. So they're just letting you know that by doing a public release, you're going to be switching how you integrate with it. I need to put in my website. It wants me to link to terms of service. All right, so I get a client ID and a client secret now. So my Notions package is probably going to have to be updated to handle to handle OAuth flow also with things. So that's going to be a new and interesting endeavor. But let me go ahead and so I can go back to showing my screen because this is not actually going to show anything private yet. I have a client ID and a client secret. Client IDs aren't, I mean, people are going to find those out easily. So this I don't have to worry about. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go into my config and I'm going to have to set that up. So config EXS, going to have to set up like a a new variable here that is basically a client ID. Actually, we'll set this up as an environment variable just to make things a little bit more configurable. I bet I can guess your client ID in about 200 years. Unless you have one of those quantum computers. So Notion client ID, and then I'm gonna put this in the dev secrets folder, which to Lacosse's major sadness won't be able to see. Copy. That's how you treat your fans. Cool. Huh, I just got a gifted sub to a random streamer. I just had to pause to read that. All right, let me make sure that the key, the secret is still the same. Let's see. So show all client secret. This client secret will only be displayed once and cannot be viewed again. Make sure you're storing it secretly. Oh wow. That is some strictness, man. It's only going to be displayed once and never displayed again. Bum bum bum. So that means I'm going to have to make this. I'm gonna add this to a LastPass note. Add item. Secure note. Notion. Helpers. Creds. One chance. One opportunity. Bum 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 bum. So that's my client ID. Secret. Okay. That's saved off over into that's saved off over into LastPass. It looks like now that I've shown the token, though, let me make sure I'm hiding the files and stuff like that. So that's been changed. Close this file. So the interesting is now that I've viewed it, the only option that I have for this is to refresh it. So I can never see it again. I can only refresh it and get a brand new one. I can never use the current one unless I look at my notes. I'm gonna up the volume a little bit on Sika. There we go. La música. Do you like Los Tigres del Norte? I don't really. I never got into Mexican banda norteño because mostly I'm not fluent in the language. But my brother, on the other hand, he would bump that stuff all the time. So I enjoy listening to banda and all the music. I don't fully understand all the stuff they're singing, but I do like it. It does bring back old childhood memories and stuff like that of going to parties and stuff like that. Alrighty then, on to authorization stuff. The videos are hilarious, yeah. A lot of those videos are hilarious in general. We have a good sense of humor. So public integrations is the part we're going to be working on. Let me close this because we're not going to be working on the Thin Notion API updates right now, since we're predominantly focused on integrating with this. The integration stores all access tokens and receives typically in the database. So public OAuth integrations receive an access token each time a user grants the integration. The access token which is granted is associated with the user account that is installed in the integration. This process follows OAuth 2.0 using an authorization code grant described. The integration stores all access token it receives typically in a database and chooses one as a bearer token for each request. Once a user has installed your integration, only that user will be able to interact with your integration in Notion. Installing a user will be able to share additional pages, databases with your integration using the share menu in Notion. Any additional user that wants to use your integration will need to go through authorization process themselves. We strongly recommend enabling your integration as a beta or preview. While the Notion API is in beta, this sets the right expectations with users as the API continues to evolve. That's a nice little good note to put. So they don't list public integrations right now. Okay, so we need to set up OAuth. So I forget if there are any kind of OAuth already like OAuth libraries that we can use to help us manage the OAuth flow. There usually is some sort of library that does it, so. Because we've worked on libraries in the past for Twitch. OAuth is the one, so maybe Uber. And we've actually worked on and released an updated version. Our new invoice you have? Yeah, I'll be sending one over. Just been busy past 2 days, but I'll be sending one over this evening. We're planning a trip over the weekend. So haven't used OAuth yet. It's intimidating. It does. So OAuth does seem a little intimidating. Yes, but it's actually really, really straightforward because OAuth is it's just a process of exchanging tokens. Let's say Uber. So let's look at the OAuth gem here, or not gem, but library. So we'll be going over, because we're going to be doing OAuth flow, you'll probably get nice exposure to it. So OAuth is a two-phase authentication framework providing clear API, allowing many strategies to be created and shared within the community. It is heavily inspired by OmniAuth. So OAuth is just the framework that implements the generic OAuth flow, and then there's a bunch of plugins to customize it to be slightly tailored to each individual services, like URLs in terms of their OAuth flow. Please don't send you invoices. You'll get one in the mail soon, Lacoste. Don't ask me how I know your address. Mm-mm-mm. It might be the way to go, authenticating across domains. It's probably, yeah, it's the most secure strategy. I feel like there probably is better ones, but it's definitely the most intuitive strategy. So you can see right here, there's different strategies here that you can configure that already exist. This will define two providers. A general structure provider is this. We are configuration options defining. So we're definitely gonna. I think we're gonna have to define our own strategy, because I don't think anyone's created a strategy for Notion yet. Ooh, someone's actually created a renderer for Notion. Oh. Blocks to HTML. This is cool. They've actually done something to convert Notion blocks into HTML. That's really cool. A client wants authentication inside an iframe. Okay. These paths can be configured and per strategy basis by setting options on the provider. These paths are absolute. So let's go ahead and install an OAuth. So OAuth is on version 7. Let's close all the other ones and just go like this. So OAuth. Mix. What is it? Mix steps get. Yeah, mix steps get. So we're going to have to configure our own provider, I believe. So let's see. OAuth example. This path can be customized. All options are passed. Trying to see if there's any direct documentation about writing a custom one in here. There's the wiki right there. So these are the examples to do Facebook, Google, Slack, but we're doing Notion. List of strategies. These strategies can be used as a building blocks for other strategies to leverage open standards and other common authentication system. Basic password authentication one. Is there any other stuff in the wiki to help us? No. You joined my Discord? Ooh. There we go. So let's just try to make our own strategy then. So I'm gonna make a new folder. So we're just gonna make a strategy within our project and try to go from there. So the strategy is going to be located in OAuth folder, and then so we're gonna kind of mirror the structure of how these strategies are set up. Is OAuth strategy Facebook, OAuth strategy, and then a new folder called strat. Strategy, making sure I spelled that correctly. And then we're going to create a file in here called Notion. Oops. Rename to Notion EX. So OAuth 2, this OAuth 2 library actually makes it really easy to write my own strategy, which is really cool. But I feel like if we can write this out for OAuth, right, create the strategy for this project in general, then we can take out the code and bundle it together such that we can release our own OAuth integration for Notion. So we get a double win. We're going to build an integration for OAuth for OAuth, and then we can take that later and then just release it open source to the community. Because since we already did the legwork for it, why not just share it? So let me go ahead and take a look at this project here about see what needs to happen here. And we're going to be using the VS Code browser in the editor, web editor browser to navigate this code easier. VS Code Elixir syntax. Let's see if that's going to actually help us see our code a little bit more nicely. Yeah, okay, cool. It does. So we have a couple things here that they're doing in their OAuth example. I wish the OAuth example had better stuff to it. Here, let's finish this configuration here though. So in our config exs, we're going to be adding in OAuth. Our provider is going to be Notion. And then we don't have options yet. We did create this Notion one. So this is going to be def module, OAuth, strategy, Notion. Like that. And that takes us there. So at least we have the module defined. This will define to provide that. So and then if Phoenix plug this module in your controller. So we're going to have an authentication controller. So our authentication controller, we can probably piggyback on the user session controller because this is what's used to log in a user. So I think I'll just piggyback on the already generated user session controller because there's one for registration, password reset, user settings. So we will use this one. Now let's go back to over here to see what's going on. GitHub does it this way. Facebook does it. Avatar from auth. So these are just standard creation stuff. Name from auth, validate. We'll leave this alone for now. Let's take a look at the controller, the auth controller that they have. So they already have doing plug OAuth, and then they have these callbacks. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of comment this out for now. We're just going to call IO inspect with the auth information. Or actually not auth information, because I want to be careful what we output. And just say callback. And then we're going to have to define these routes here. I think OAuth might actually call this out, maybe. No, they don't call that out, but we'll need to go into our router and actually input that in as routes that we'll have to handle. Let's see. We'll do it here. And then we are using the sessions controller, not the auth controller. Maybe we'll rip this out into another controller later, but those are the that's the controller. We're just going to house it for now. So this yet doesn't have the configuration for actually setting up the auth and doing the routes and stuff like that. So I will have to go and take a look at the integrations that exist for the project. So we'll have to look at one of these open source integrations. We'll look at the GitHub one to figure out how to configure it. So we're going to have to go into our config. So just like with, well, I guess we won't have to do this for the Notion one, at least not right now, because we already have this set up here. In the OAuth plug. So we will have to add in OAuth into our browser pipeline for our router. We'll have to add the OAuth plug. And then there's our routes that we just put in for provider and callback. I guess we'll add this configuration just to be thorough, because if I'm planning on configuring this such that we can extract this code later to its own package, then this is something we'll have to just do. I'm going to go ahead and add this to the dev secrets file. And update the secret. So update the client, the key, secret key. Update the client ID. Like that. Save that, close that. And we're back. I don't think we have anything to change within the square brackets, so let's go ahead and just delete that. All right, let's go ahead and try to build out this integration like GitHub did. Alrighty, so let's see here. So OAuth strategy GitHub, and we have our OAuth strategy Notion. And let's start doing copy pasta to configure everything. That over there. That over there. Handle the initial redirect to the GitHub authentication page. Customize the scopes, permissions, requesting. Sure. I don't think there's anything really to do with scopes right now. But it's okay to build this out too, because with Notion, so the Superbase guys are crazy. Their engineers sent me a message that they're looking into it. Not this corporate BS where underpaid CS agent assures that you're. That's really cool. That's really cool. Small company that's iterating fast and knows that if things break, no good. Let's look at the docs for the Notion authentication URLs. So it is v1 OAuth authorize, client ID, and state the user is in the middle of the interaction with the operation. Oh, this grant access thing is really cool. So the URL for this is that. Handle the initial redirect to the Notion authentication page. What does the redirect look like? We're not really handling anything with scopes yet. This one handles the callback from GitHub, which will be receiving a callback from Notion after we tell it, like, hey, this person wants to sign up, where there is failure from Notion. Yeah, so the way OAuth works is that we're going to do a request. So there's going to be a URL that a user clicks. So in our case, it's going to be v1 API Notion, api.notion.com, OAuth authorize, and then the information about the owner. Always use user, the client ID of the application that wants to authenticate, the redirect URI, so when the callback that happens, and type of code. So they're going to be, so they click the link, they get sent to a web page on Notion or your service. You're going to be presented with a dialog saying that, hey, this app wants permission to have access to this information or to do these actions on your behalf, which you always see on OAuth flows. Then you click yes, confirm, and then the third-party service, Notion, Facebook, Google, will then make a request back, a redirect request, which we've specified here, and we've also registered on the application when we're configuring the app on that third-party service. We'll send a request back with the information about the user saying, hey, this user has authorized your application. So here's the page that we would see. They go and select all the information that they want, and then we get a request back saying, hey, yeah, this user has authorized your application here, and then it's going to be giving us a code, a special code that basically is our little token to then go back and exchange for information to Notion, Facebook, whatever that has the more detailed information in regards to the access token we need to do actual stuff on their behalf. So it is a two-step process where we send the user over to Notion. They click yes. Notion sends us a message back saying, hey, this person authorized the application. Then using that information, the special code that we're given from Notion saying like here's your ticket to get all the information you need to go do stuff on behalf. Then then the server does a request to Notion, transparent to the user, to fetch that additional information, which happens to be the access token that we need to do everything. And then we save that to the database so we can continually do more stuff with it. And that's what this whole process is doing here, and that's what this first part is doing, is this callback. The callback's going to come back with so after the user grants access, the integration will receive an incoming request redirect to the redirect URI following this information of code and state. That's a beautiful explanation. Thank you, Lacoste. Hopefully, OAuth doesn't seem that intimidating. It is just following a contract of requests and responses with some additional information coded inside of it. So this is the callback part right here, and the major part we want is the code coming out of it. So we're pattern matching on the code being present. You don't really dig how refresh tokens work. Refresh tokens are a pain in the butt. I will say that. A lot of services, what they do is the refresh tokens are pretty long lived. Then you're supposed to use the refresh token after that. Yeah, so what you'll have to do with refresh token is you basically have to list. Basically, you have to pay attention to when either you. So usually with OAuth, let's see. Trying to see if this will have it. It doesn't. But sometimes as part of the payload for your access token, you'll also get a little attribute including with it telling you how long you'll get an access token and a refresh token. And then you'll be also given another attribute saying how long that access token will work for. So you could, before you make any requests, you can try to check the timestamp to see if it's past its validity before you make the request. And then what you do is just like we used the original code to get the original payload of the access token. There's a special endpoint that you call to with the refresh token, and then it will give you back a new access token of information. The other way to do that is if you don't have a timestamp or anything like that, you can just do a tiny request to this to either you listen to a failure because the access token is no longer valid, or you do a tiny there's usually like a little health check endpoint that you can make a request to the service with the access token that can tell you whether the access token is still valid or not. And then you would do a reauthorize a refresh request with the refresh token to get a new version of the access token. And then that request will give you back a new access token and a new refresh token to use. But it is annoying that you have to go and refresh it, but from a security standpoint, it makes sense. So we do OAuth, so we get the OAuth token, get token. If there is no so then this is going to go. So what this is baked in right here that I can already see is that this is going to go and going to do a request to go get the token using the code. So this is going to do that additional request to here. So finally, the integration exchanges the authorization code for the access token by sending a post request to the Notions token URL. So that's what this part is doing right here. This is going and actually fetching the token, which we haven't implemented yet. I get the token, which has a short value. That's what I think. Lots of code required to make it work. Dang. But yeah, its main purpose is just to ensure that so if somehow someone were to get a hold of your token, that token, you can kind of like squash issues with it. And an application has to recheck in. All right, so this one. It's hard to invalidate tokens. It's actually really easy to invalidate a token because of encryption and stuff. No, like the reason why OAuth is a popular scheme is because it's ridiculously simple to invalidate a token, because you as the hosting provider like Facebook, or in this case Notion, if a user you keep track of all the tokens that were created for third-party applications to integrate with that user's account, and to validate the token, all you have to do is just delete the token. So if the user can go into their dashboard, see all the applications that are connected, and they can just be like, oh, I don't want Notion helpers no longer to have access to my stuff, they can just delete it. And then from the perspective of Notion, all they have to do is either they can, in the database, either mark that token invalid. So next time that my application Notion helpers does a request using that token, it can just say, nope, not valid, or we could just delete it altogether and just say like the token doesn't exist. It's invalid because it no longer exists in the database. Cleans up the private area of the connection used for passing the raw GitHub response around during the callback. Okay. I'm not sure about the GitHub user thing right here. I don't think we really have any. I don't think the Notion API has a concept of user. Maybe we'll just keep the Notion token. And fetches the UID field from the GitHub response. This defaults to the option a UID field, which is in turn. I don't think that's prevalent. That is bot ID identifier for this authorization access token, space ID. Tips for storing and using access tokens. Okay, let's take a look at this real quick. Store all of the information your integration receives with the access token. You never know when the UI requirements or product requirements might change. And you find some use of the data. It's really hard or impossible to send users to authorize again to get this information. The bot ID returned along with the token should act as a primary key when storing information. Oh, that's a good tip. So we're gonna have to create a table with the integration. This object contains information about who can view and share the integration. A user object will be returned. So there is going to be the concept of a Notion user. So let's go ahead and kind of preemptively okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if I need this UID dealy here. Include the credentials from GitHub response. Okay, so this we will need the credentials information. Let's see, handle callback. I don't think we can fetch user. I don't think we're going to be using this either. So I'm going to delete that. Let's go back over here. All right, so we added this in, which is credentials, includes the credentials from the get response. So this credentials is basically the logic for these credentials here. Let's see. Security consideration for JW, JWS, and JWE. JWT is an interesting authentication flow. I don't think I've watched this video, but I've read topics on using JDP tokens for authentication, and I think that's where I think JWTs are where you're thinking about the about invalidating the token. So we don't get, so interestingly enough, we don't get any sort of additional information about Notion will respond with the request with an access token and some additional information. The response contains the following JSON encoded. Yeah, so we actually do not get a refresh token. We don't get an expires at. We don't get a token type either. Yeah, hold on. Expires at expires. And we don't get any scopes either. Also has some mind-blowing security talks. Cool. Our friend Brian Clark, or Clarkio, works for Sneak also. I think within the past 6 months to a year. So he's been doing more security focused streams. They spam your email inbox though, that's true. So we actually don't have any scopes. So that's just the credentials for our app. It's just the token. The info though is all the other cruft that we will be getting back from Notion. I honestly don't know. So an object containing information about who can view and show this integration. Actually true will be returned for installations of workspace level tokens. For user level tokens, a user object will be returned. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know what exactly to do with this. If we can even, if this is even like about like fields to populate the info section of OAuth. Because I'm not even sure if like, yeah, I am definitely not sure what exactly we would be doing with this, to be honest. Let's just make a blank info object. Later, streamer. All right, look us. Have a good one. Catch you later. Robert, including the token obtained from GitHub callbacks. I still want to keep most of this implementation because if Notion expands on their OAuth features, then most of the stuff will be baked in. Or most of the stuff's going to be already here to extend on. Fetch email, fetch UID, fetch private email, fetch user. We're doing none of this. These last ones, options, we'll keep. We don't have scopes. With redirect URI. The send redirect URI, I don't think is a thing. I think it's just straight up redirect URI on our Notion documentation. Yeah, it's just that. And it's the initial redirect to the Notion authentication page. Yep. We're going to have to add a couple other options to this. In a little bit because there's a couple other things in here. All right, so here's the OAuth module for GitHub. And we're going to have to do the exact same thing for Notion. I need to rename these folders, by the way, to lowercase. Although it's not letting me. See if I can do this again. Oh, interesting. It's not letting me do it. I might have to do this to the terminal then, because it's a looks like it's a dev container issue. Let's see. So cd into lib, and then we have OAuth, and then we'll start from the inside out. So strategy. Strategy to strategy with lowercase s. Okay. All right, let's do this then. New folder, lowercase strategy. And then we move that to there. And then we delete that. And then in here, let's go ahead and create our Notion folder just so we... Oh, we're going to have to create this OAuth folder. So let's do that real quick. OAuth. Right. Weird. It's like having weird issues trying to move stuff. Oh, did I just lose everything? Oh no. I might have just lost everything. Yeah, it's all gone. It's it's legitimately all gone. There was an error moving the files and it just dumped everything on the ground. Wow. That's absolutely bonkers. Let's try this again. OAuth. I guess we're recreating everything. Holy moly. If you did it through VS Code, it's through let's see. Illegal operation. It's through the dev containers, Madam. I'm using the dev container, not so VS Code using connecting to the dev container. So it's bugged out because of that. Yeah, it's bugged out because of that. So we just lost all the work. Luckily, I guess the lucky part about this is that a lot of this stuff was boilerplate from the OAuth stuff. So we'll just do a rapid kind of copy and paste. What is wrong with this stuff? Like it's refusing to make the directories. Yeah. I'm just gonna do this with the command line. We go OAuth, make a new directory, strategy. There. And then inside, and then we'll go inside strategy, and we're gonna make a file called Notion EX, and then we're gonna make another directory called Notion. There. So we're just gonna copy and paste this, and we're just gonna kind of do some mass changes here. What the heck? Okay. I'm gonna get rid of all this first. We can worry about documenting stuff later. So our authentication URL is B1 OAuth authorize. I too find easiest to write docs when I no longer know what the code does. In this case, I do know the code, but all the descriptions up there were specific to GitHub. So we're just gonna cut out like with scopes, with state params. I'm not even sure if we need that. So OAuth to authorize URL, and this handles the callback, which does this. Get the token, access token error, but we're not going to be doing any sort of user fetching here. Handle the callback, which is fine. From Notion. handle cleanup. Notion. Notion. We don't care about UIDs. The credentials, the only thing that comes in through the credentials now is the token for GitHub, or not for GitHub, for Notion. So we don't care about splitting on scoping or anything like that. And then Notion. And then I made the determination that all this user info stuff, not even sure whether we need it because for Notion, there's very little user stuff anyway. So we'll just kind of keep that logic in there, but really not do anything with it yet. So we'll just return back an empty info object. Or struct, not object, but struct. Because I'm not sure what is the actual value for the Notion API. The extra info coming in from Notion is just the token and the user. We'll preserve that. We'll play with it once we get things working. Fetch UIDs, nope. Nope. Fetch email, primary email, nope. Get the token, leave that blank. Check credentials. This is fine. Say key exists, blah, 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 blah. Is that all really part of this? This doesn't look like it's part of it. Get token. There's the extra information, fetch email, fetch get primary, fetch user, options. This stuff is the good stuff after extra. All this stuff is probably a bad copy and paste from the OAuth section. With scopes, we'll nuke because we're not dealing with scopes. With redirect URI. I'm actually just gonna, the idea with redirect URI, there's always gonna be a redirect URI, so I'm actually gonna modify this to just be redirect URI. There's always a redirect URI for the Notion integration. There, we're caught up with what we had before, and then we were going to start implementing the OAuth section of everything. Over here. OAuth, EX, RX, EX. And this is actually implementing the OAuth strategy for OAuth strategy information for Notion. Client ID, client secret. Let's go jump over to the config and see how I did this. Notion OAuth, yeah. Client ID, client secret. Notion client ID. And Notion client secret. Like that. So now we can input in the URLs for this. So the site itself is HTTPS API notion.com. And then the authorization URL is this whole thing. V1 OAuth authorize. The token, the URL we use to go and fetch the actual token after we get the code, is V1 OAuth token. So this is pretty standard OAuth flow URLs. So construct a client request to Notion. Optionally, include any OAuth options. Well, two options here with the defaults. This will be set up. I'll be set up for you and Notion. All right, so this is actually constructing the OAuth flow stuff. So UberAuth, and then we go and fetch the environment variables. So that are set on the application, which is Notion. We get the client ID, client secret. We merge in some more configurations, and then we use the OAuth 2 client to do the magic. Provides authorization URL. So then, because we have already templated out, we're following this specific template for it, we can easily just, so we do the client, and then we do the call to authorize URL. And then for getting the token, it's pretty standard. Temporary exchanging the grant access, the code, temporary authorization code. So here's the get token. So this is where things might need to change. Oh, interesting. We have to include the redirect URI. Let's see. Checking if the configuration. So I think I'll need to update to not loaded, cannot be found. Oh, because I'm gonna have to include OAuth 2 as a dependency of library. So not in config, but mix EXS. And then application logger, and we have to include in OAuth 2. Good. Mix deps get. Oh, we're not in the right directory because we had our debacle. Keep on thinking we're in Z shell. So I keep on doing my Z shell shortcuts. There. So now I believe this should be happy with the OAuth strategy because now it exists. Yeah, my only worry here is that it doesn't handle the authorization properly. But everything should be set up now. And we can debug the rest as we configure things. So let's do mix phx start and see if we can actually get the server up and running. It's starting to get warm in here with the computer running and all that type of stuff. So it's compiling everything out. So we have a bunch of new dependencies and such. App start, not phx start. What happened here? Why didn't the app actually start? Strange. Let's try to start things with IEX. App starts. Hey, Lego Enforcer. Writing your first Twitch extension. Great video. Helped me figure out all the parts I was having trouble with. So yeah, thank you. Awesome, Lego Enforcer. Glad you were able to get that up and running and get your extension up and running. That's really cool. So I guess, okay, so feedback. It's been a while since that video was created. Is there anything that that you came across that was friction points that needed to be changed or needed to be updated? Because it'd probably be a good idea. I think it's a good idea for me to try to make a new version of the video of going through and creating a new extension. And then the second question I have for you is, what are you making? If you can talk about it. So it looks like the server just doesn't want to start. Interesting. I was able to go into IEX for this, but I don't think it's running on localhost because it doesn't say anything happened. Mm-hmm. Oh, there we go. Pietrix server was the one. Why did it say? Whatever. That's what I thought. Oh, I did Pietrix star. That's what I did. Okay. Well, anyway. Wait for it to finish building. So yeah, Lego, what sort of ideas do you got that you got building through? You got brewing in that noggin of yours. Ooh, that's tiny. There we go. All right, so let's see if we can actually do well, first of all, let's actually see what our routes look like. Power programming like that. Oh, this is doing a catch-all right here. Where's my router? I'm gonna disable that route right there. And I'm gonna bring it back so that it's specific to Notion. These ones too. So I'm gonna do Notion here, and just to be safe, we're gonna hide our screen. And we did get an error because user session request 2 is undefined or private. So the URL I was trying to hit does not exist. So we're trying to hit user sessions request, but it no work. Let's take a look at our OAuth example, controllers, auth. So this is the one we're missing here. And we're missing a request page too, it looks like. So I'm currently working on the JavaScript part of the extension. It's basically a particle playground for viewers to play with the visuals of a stream in an interactive and immediate way. I was inspired by the Sandbox app on Google Play Store. Thought that would be so much fun as a Twitch extension. And hey, if no one else already made it, it sounds like a call to action to me. Nice, that's really cool. The one thing that's gonna have to be the big disclaimer for that, or cautionary thing, is making sure, since it's gonna be like a little sandbox for drawing and stuff like that, you want to make sure that there's an easy way to clear it in case someone does something inflammatory, offensive, stuff like that. That's gonna be a lot of fun. That's really cool. So you're working on the JavaScript side. Do you have an idea how you're going to be doing the backend for that too? So we're going to have to make a little web page for this. We'll just copy this one that exists already for our templates, user session, create a new file here. And we're just going to do, so this request page is just going to be a little page so we can easily click a button to go trigger that auth flow. So let's get rid of this. Let's see. Log in with username or password. That doesn't seem right. Here, we're just going to construct the URL here. So it's just going to be an A tag, href. Notion auth. Nothing fancy. Let's see if the official OAuth, they have anything about, so it's just going to be auth, Facebook, blah, blah, blah. Here, let's try doing this real quick. I don't see the auth URLs here. But it should ideally be this, auth, Notion. Because it's a drawing app in the internet as well. The internet, exactly. And Twitch be Twitch. All right, let's see what that does now. Helpers callback URL. That is something that we're missing. Once we get past this, we'll be calling it an end to the stream. We're going to try to get this last portion. Where are our helpers? Auth strategy helpers. They're coming from UberAuth. Make a space there just to be clean. Can I request HTML Notion user session? Please match defining clause, render template, user session. Weird. So what I'm going to try to do here is I'm just going to manually try to invoke auth Notion. Give me a second here. Since we can't get the URL to do its thing. Yeah, we're missing something in terms of the setup here. Because auth/auth Notion isn't working. So I think there is something need to include in the configuration for this to generate the URL. Scope auth. There we go. That's what it is. It's scope auth. That's what we're doing wrong here. That's what we're missing. Let's add a new plugin here. Or pipeline, auth pipeline. Let's not include that as part of that. There. And then down here. Where I was originally doing this here. We'll do this here. Now we can properly parameterize this. Doing that. I think that's good. User session init is undefined. Now this is good. It should be fine. Let's let it recompile. So I know this stuff's not going to work straight off the bat. So auth, Notion. I'm going to hide my screen real quick. All right, so we're getting closer. Uber auth strategy Notion auth to authorize URL is undefined. Free Dumaze. Probably said that wrong. Welcome. Good evening to you. So there we go. We have that properly configured. We are just missing a couple extra hoops to jump through. Yes, because this needs to be renamed to Notion OAuth. Let's try that again. There we go. So we're not fully there yet, but we managed to go to. You see Elixir code? Nice. But yeah, like so we did the URL of auth Notion and it redirected us to Notion. We just need to update the configuration because the redirect URI isn't in here. It says invalid redirect URI, so I need to like hop in and look at the code here because apparently it did not grab the redirect URI properly. I think I need to configure that. I probably need to configure that in the config file. Actually. So this config file over here, I need to specify the redirect URI, and this needs to be hp://localhost 4000 / auth Notion callback. And I need to specify that. Yeah, so it's redirect auth Notion callback is it. And I believe in the code over here, it's going to be grabbing that redirect when it's going to do that callback request. It is going to attempt to grab that redirect URI. So right here. Yeah, Elixir is definitely an interesting programming language. Sometimes it looks like a little bit like JavaScript. Sometimes it can look a little bit like Ruby. But it is entirely a functional programming language. So it does exactly what you needed to do without any side effects. And everything is a process in it. So no one error can affect other code execution elsewhere in the application, which is pretty cool. But that's it for today. We'll be continuing. We're almost there in terms of the configuration. We need to properly set the redirect URI on here. So if we were to go back, let's find out. Actually, I'll need to restart the server since that was an environment config that did stuff. But we would go back to auth Notion, and that would redirect us back to this page. And hopefully, we'll get the actual proper configuration for OAuth integration for our application, and then we can complete the other part of when they approve it, saving those credentials to the user, and then we have a full kind of OAuth implementation for Notion, integration for Notion, which then later on we can pull out and create our own OAuth package for other people that want to do OAuth validate OAuth login, credential login with Notion also. But that will continue. That'll continue next Friday. So next Friday we'll be continuing work on this project, but on the stream we're doing plenty of Elixir programming. So and thank you very much for that follow. I'll just say Dumze. Thank you very much for that follow. The next stream will be on Sunday, where we'll be working on our side project that converts images of code into actual text code to be using Azure's optical character recognition service. So that's going to be pretty cool. So stay tuned for that. Come in on Sunday. Actually, hold on. I might not be streaming on Sunday because I am going to be out of town, so I don't think I'll be able to stream on Sunday. Now that I think about it. So I'll be out of town on Sunday and Monday. But thank you very much for that follow, and yeah, just give me a follow, and I'll be probably back on Wednesday then for the next stream. And I think that stream we're going to be doing a little bit of some TypeScript, JavaScript stuff, because I need to update some old code to be compatible with Twitch. Twitch is doing some upgrades from Kraken, upgrading from legacy API usage to more current API usage. But thank you everyone for hanging out during this Zeal water cooler stream. Yeah. And Zeal is currently hiring. We are currently hiring. So if you are a full stack web developer or just an experienced developer in general, just give me a shout out, and I can, if you're curious about working at an awesome remote company. I'll catch you next time, folks. Have a great weekend. Stay happy. Stay healthy. Go eat something yummy. Peace.